to the Cinementalists. Noun, plural. Definition, those whose love for movies runs so deep, they can't help but do a podcast about them. Hosted by Colton Robertson and Joseph George. Hello everybody and welcome in to the Cinementalists. Today we continue the month of October with yet another classic horror flick. This week is Night of the Living Dead. It was released on October 4th, 1968. It was written for the screen by John A. Russo and George A. Romero and directed by George A. Romero. I am Colton Robertson. I am joined by Joseph George. What's up, homie?
Oh, what up, what up? Always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it's always a pleasure to have you. We got a fun first viewing on the docket for you. This is just one of those ones that I've kind of considered. I'm not a big horror movie guy. I really, really enjoy, however, the classic horror movies. There's something to be said for the fact that they're less scary, you know, and they are a little easier to watch. And this is a certain idea that we are quite used to in modern entertainment, which is zombies. How'd you feel after your first viewing of Night of the Living Dead?
Yeah, I'm a big horror. I actually loved horror growing up, and still, I don't know. I've kind of grown out of it a little bit, I guess, but I've never just hated it. I've always liked it, and the Jordan Peele, the thriller, the ones that get you to think. I guess the jump scare and those kind of movies don't do it for me. But
they
then
have their place, but yeah, they're not for me.
Yeah, I guess I'm just a very modern movie watcher as well. So a horror like this, the cool factor for me is more of like the inspiration and just how classic of a movie it is, and seeing just how things came to be after this, and to think that it is, you know, people in the theaters at this time, they haven't really had much of this, so it is like all new, and it would be like a new fear or new things, but it's so second nature now, or it's just in zombies, or I don't know. I grew up playing Call of Duty Zombies for hours upon end, so like zombies were, I don't know, just always part of my childhood, and I always knew about them. But it's cool to see just the base, or the, I don't know, at a different time.
The basis, you know, like on film, it's kind of considered that White Zombie from 1932 is kind of the defining original, lays the parameters for what we know a zombie to be. But even so, thinking about being in the theater in 1968, being our age or younger, you know, it's the 60s. You don't have access to a movie from 1932.
Oh. That's...
You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't... There isn't much media that you're going like, well, this came out back then, and unless you were there and you fucking saw it, you didn't fucking see it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and so like it's groundbreaking, even though, you know, there are technically examples that come before it. There's a lot of influence that it obviously possesses in a way that movies that came before it don't, just because like this has gotten remade and its sequels have gotten remade and all sorts of stuff. Like there's actually the sequel to this movie is Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah. I feel like there's so many movies with similar names. Just finding this movie, tracking it down was very like just having to weed through all of the other ones.
All the options. Dawn of the Dead, that's a popular one, and the remake of it was from 2004, directed by Zack Snyder, written by James Gunn, which is one that a lot of people are surprised to learn about, because for some reason everybody likes to pretend that they are mortal enemies. You know,
is it good?
It's fine.
You
know, it's fine. It's a fun watch. You should, like, it's worth your time. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
But like,
and it's
there's
Dawn of the Dead, same
Dawn
name,
of the Dead. Yeah, Dawn of the Dead. It's an enjoyable watch, you know, and I've never seen the actual sequels to this movie though. I've never watched Dawn of the Dead. I think George A. Romero kind of milked this a little bit. I think he did Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like it's and I can't blame him, because once you got this fucking vein, you got this fucking vein, you know. And I love this movie, man. I think that it has you know, it has its issues. You know, just because like it's, you know, it's a movie, things happen, but I enjoy that when it matters, this thing fucking locks in and it cooks. You know what I'm saying? Like I really enjoy the lead actor playing Ben Dwayne Jones. I think that he's really good in that role. And if not a character, definitely a performance. You know, one way or the other. There are a few solid performances in this movie, though. How do you feel around it?
Yeah. I gave Ben the good old character. I feel like he is just the character of the movie. He's the guy you're rooting for, the guy that always seems that at least I'm aligning with in the decisions. But performance, it was either him or I actually really liked Helen Cooper, the wife of the most hateable character in the movie, Mr. Cooper, but played by Marilyn Eastman is who she was played by. And I don't know, just the slight like. It's not my favorite line, but I put it in here. Like, we might not enjoy living together, but dying together won't solve anything. And just in that one line, there's a whole lot of history that's you know, that you have to infer and all that stuff. And their relationship was pretty easily read by her performance. And then whenever shit started going crazy and I don't know, it felt like she was maybe hitting on Ben a little bit. I don't know. I was kind of reading it a little bit. Like she's obviously fed up with
her husband. Yeah. No,
And,
I like her. I like her a lot too.
but-
She was definitely one of the standouts. I enjoy. You know, you start the movie with her, so you kind of perceive her to be the main character, even though she's obviously not. But was that Barbara?
Yeah, I think Barbara and Johnny were the two
and
little...
I think she does a really good job. Sorry about that. My video went out, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get it back for you. But I really enjoy her performance. Judith O'Dea, I think is her name. She is super good at the, you know, obviously she doesn't have a lot to do after a certain point in the movie. She gets frightened and she plays Scream Queen really well, and then she plays completely out of it, disoriented, and like that, just perfect, you know?
Yeah. Just in shock.
Got it. Oh, nope, it's going to go away quick. All right. Sorry about that. If you're watching, you're not seeing me. I got a cat in my lap. I can't get up and fix it. But, yeah. No, I really enjoy it. Like, it's almost comedic the way she plays that role at times. You know, like whenever she's like, oh, yeah, outside. Yeah, we can go. Cool. And they're like, no, we can't go. And she's like, yeah, let's go. We're going now, right? Let's do it.
Poor girl.
Yeah, you feel for her. And the way this, like, the main highlight of this movie is obviously the ending. The way this movie culminates is absolutely electric and then devastating. And devastating all around, really. Every character meets just a horrific demise. Just an absolutely devastating, you know, you got the homegrown boy who's down to help. He's clearly not racist as the other guy is. You know, he's like, you know what, you're the leader, I'm listening to you, I can help you, let's do this thing. And his girlfriend gets in the truck, gets her jacket caught, you know, sure, why not? And they explode in a truck. Yep, that's perfect. The parents getting killed by their undead daughter. Woof.
Like, I mean, Mr. Cooper, or what was his, I feel like what was his first name? Do they ever call him? I feel like they always just called him Mr. Cooper.
It's pretty much Mr. Cooper. I feel like his wife gives him a name at some point. Harry? I think Harry?
Harry, yeah. Good old Harry. But yeah, he sucked the whole time.
God, he was awful.
It was just awful, but then, you know, when he's crawling down to his daughter and then like that thought's in my mind of like, you know, she's obviously gonna wake back up, huh? Like, I'm like, she's not doing well. If she's not a zombie already, at some point it's got to happen. And then, so I thought that, I don't know, the mom just got it real bad. That was just, I don't know, partly a nod for her performance as well. Just having to be a
sweetie.
Mom.
Oh, baby.
No, like it's like the
that
denial,
shit was really,
the fear,
really good. Yeah, dude. No, and like that's why, like, ultimately, I think this movie is obviously very bare bones, very simple. but there's still so many layers to the relationships going on, and by the end of it, if you aren't already reading it in a certain way, it recontextualizes the whole movie when Ben meets his demise. Because nobody calls him a slur. Nobody, but like you must remember that this movie takes, it's from the 1960s, and he's taking charge, and it's a situation where there are going to be naturally occurring opposite points of view. You are like, I can't blame Harry for being like, they can get in the windows up here, I'm going to go down there. And him being like, well, that's a death trap. If you go down there, you're trapped. You have nowhere to go. That's a natural course of feelings, but then like recontextualizing it to be like, he disagrees with Ben because he is black. Seeing that that's what ends up getting Ben killed, is absolutely devastating. And I think there's a lot of interesting ways to read the undead in this movie. I appreciate how much of the movie is spent trying to figure them out. They don't have a direct way they can try to figure them out, but I love the broadcasts. I love the radio. I love the TV. It's obviously exposition heavy, but it's good perfect. Exposition. Yeah.
A perfect way to do it. Like, I don't like it's exposition, but it's whenever you cut to the characters' like reactions, I guess, of their like them hearing the news for the first time, it makes the exposition like you want to see them hear this news, but then also as the audience, you want to hear what the fuck's going on as well. And like it is simple stuff that like now it's like, yeah, you can kill him with a shot to the head, and it's like in my mind I'm just like, shoot him in the head, man, but we got to get there first, and that's fun. That adds like another layer, and just the slow unravel of, yeah, they're like the first revelation of like, they seem to eat flesh. We're not comfortable saying that, but it seems to be a fact.
They
and
appear
it's
to be eating the flesh of the people they murder. And like, it's also funny considering, like, it's fascinating to watch a movie deal with a problem that doesn't exist in their media and their art. You know what I'm saying? Like, if this started happening in a modern movie, people would go, oh, well, they're fucking zombies. You know what I'm saying? Like, what I'm saying? Like, they would, like, we'll do the shit that movies and TV have taught us how to deal with zombies. So like, there is a really cool foundational element to it where it has the difficult job of establishing for us what hurts a zombie, what a zombie does, what they are, like it's, modernly, you don't need to spend time expanding upon what the zombies are. You don't need to explain that they eat the flesh of their victims and that they, the only way to kill them is a shot to the head. Like that's kind of implicit in all zombie stuff now. And the way that they make it exciting is by subverting that expectation. They like The Last of Us. That's a really good example of something that has twisted the zombie genre into something new. You know what I'm saying? Like, and
yeah, I guess I didn't think about having to establish what they are, and then in newer movies, it is just kind of
understanding.
Yep, you know what zombies are, you know how they die, you know everything that comes with them. We're just going to hit the ground running. But yeah, the people are figuring it out for the first time, and that was one of my favorite just parts of the movie in total was the rate, like the broadcasts and just them sitting in. And I was actually curious if, like, there's a shot, like, they cut a lot to just show the TV, and because it's not actually on the TV. They're are they splicing?
I'm assuming they're splicing footage.
Is it, because when it's just the TV, that makes sense to me. The TV's stagnant, they just have to slice, like, I don't know, whatever. But then there's a shot of Ben kneeling down, watching the TV, and it's showing, I don't know, it's just showing the broadcast, like whatever's there. And I was kind of like,
how are you pulling this off? Yeah,
that's not like as easily done. Like that's a lot more difficult. And I love whenever that can happen in a movie where it is just a guy kneeling down watching TV, but I know that that's so much more difficult at this time versus just today, where they would actually make the video, put it on the TV, and play it on the TV now, or just green screen, whatever. But I don't know. I was curious if like how that shot was done with if it is just
there's
another
some pretty
simple
innovative
splice,
filmmaking in this, man. Like as far as because this doesn't have a huge budget, it doesn't need one. Like we're one location. We, I mean, obviously there's a few others with like the news station and all the stuff that actually plays on the TV. But even that, it's stagnant camera except for the interview, which can just take place outside. You know what I'm saying? So like, doesn't really matter. One of my favorite shots, and probably my favorite shot of the movie, is whenever, when she arrives at the house, Barbara, she goes upstairs and she finds a music box and she turns on the music box and they show it like spin and open and they show her eyes through it when it opens. I was like, oh, that's clean. Like that's a good idea, and, I love the makeup work. The art direction on this movie is really, really strong. The way that as the course of the movie unfolds, the zombies decay more. And like their flesh starts rotting and stuff. Like it looks really, really good. The grotesquerie of them eating is visceral.
After the car bomb. Yeah. Like after the kaboom, that was pretty gross. Yeah, and whenever they found the first dead zombie upstairs and like the blood dripping and like usually whenever Margaret?
Barbara?
That didn't sound right. Barbara. Yeah, I was like, where did I get Margaret from? But whenever Barbara just was going through her scare kind of montage, there was, those are, I guess, like jump scares that, I don't know, that's a lot better than, I don't know. I don't even know what a specific example is. But even when these jump scares are used, it's at least like, I don't even know what I'm really trying to say.
It doesn't feel cheap. It's happening to the character, not the viewer. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's okay. Thank you.
It's not for us. It's for them. Like it actually. She arrives up the stairs and she comes face to face with a rotting skull. You know what I'm saying? With bloodied. And I appreciate that they never really dive into why or how that's already there.
I guess I just thought about that. Yeah, I was just like, wait a minute.
Not even clarified that it's a zombie.
Did Mr. Cooper?
It could have been.
Yeah, did those guys take him out?
Or was it just somebody who died there and it's so out of the way that they've been rotting there for a while? But if that was the case, they would have woke up and walked around. You know what I'm saying? Like, so yeah.
Yeah. And the radiation or whatever from Saturn, that's is this the reason that's causing it all? I thought it's pretty cool that like Voyager 2, that maybe I'm curious if like that's what they were going off of, because like it was in the like Voyager just to send around Saturn and get pictures of the moon and stuff, and I wonder if like NASA or something, it was in the talks of like sending a satellite up, and this was just like a fear, and he decided to make a movie out,
and that's what's
not
cool
the sole
too,
inspiration
is that they never actually confirmed that that's what caused it. They do a lot to.
Yeah, that's true.
I appreciate that the movie is not just about killing zombies. It's figuring out how to survive them and what caused it. And it's more about the human panic and the human fear that would come with an outbreak like this, as opposed to just being like, well, kill the motherfuckers and let's get on with it, Like, and I'm curious because obviously with the ending, there's a very clear message that they're sending with the white man with a gun who's working with the police who shoots a black guy when they're out hunting for the dead. And I was curious about the way that they're trying to say that, the zombies are like corruptive. Even within their own house, they broke down any sense of trust that these 5-6 people had for each other. They made them turn on each other. They, and the only one who doesn't succumb to them is Ben. Everyone else ends up falling to this voiceless, senseless violence that doesn't make sense. You can't explain it. They just do it. They just do it. What's the reason? it's indiscriminate. They don't have a reason. They just do it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm curious if there is something that might be to the idea that the zombies in some way reflect or represent in a way racial bigotry or racism in general, or prejudice at large. You know, like obviously the zombies are indiscriminate. It's anybody can die, anybody can get it. But
you don't end the movie that way without
it's and whether or not
like
they're just going like, and here's what would happen, you know, like they like people who fought the zombies would take this as an advantage to kill people without paying the consequences. They can just say they were dead, you know what I'm saying? Like
but the killers at the like, oh, there's one in there, just shoot him right between the... It's not even like that they were aware of what they were doing. It was just sort of like, kill anything that moves. Like, we're just... It wasn't even
are they doing a whole,
check if
are we
first.
any better than them sort of thing? Like, thoughtless slaughter at the end of the movie. And I love the credit sequence. It's harrowing and it's devastating. The slow picture stills of him being dragged out of the body, dragging the body out of the car, them decimating the body.
Hooks,
like it's
like, it's
you
like,
are obviously going for something. You're not just trying to salt the wound. You're sending a message to your audience, you know, about this sort of violence against black people at the hands of white people. And I really think that's a poignant and devastating way to end the movie. And God, does it hurt. It hurts fucking bad.
It did. I'm like, wow. Well, how 80s of them, how progressive of them to have the only happy end, the only person in a horror movie to not die, the black guy, because it's just kind of stereotypical now that it's like, well, if the black guy kind of just dies first, or I don't know. I don't know if that's just up until this point. I don't know if that's a thing in movies yet.
I think it's after
yet
this,
to come.
but
Probably.
Well,
probably
I mean, it's
but
ahead of its time for having a black lead.
That's,
you know, like 1968, we're
is...
fresh off the Civil Rights Act. We're fresh off of that. We're in the decade of that. You know what I'm saying? Like that was one of the big controversies of the movie's release, was that like it was led by a black guy.
Given him like it feels like there's a class conversation being had with the zombies somehow. It's not like they're trying to say that there's a population that are basically zombies and the government's wanting to get rid of them and just having to kill them. But I mean, I don't think you make the lead black and then every other character white. You know, there's and just white. Like,
it's not like that just happened to be the case. It's not like he was like, you know what, I think Dwayne Jones just happens to be right for the role. I could have casted anybody. No, there's a subtext here that you know, and I think it shows in all the characters. You know, like Barbara instantly has a mistrust. She's obviously distraught and she can't focus, but she doesn't instantly go, thank God, somebody to protect me. She's, you know, like it's still harrowing, you know, and I think that whenever the Coopers or Harry and I feel bad for forgetting the kid's name. What's his name? Tom? Yeah, Tom. Whenever Harry and Tom come up from downstairs, and they come face to face with them, they almost come to blows right then and there, you know, like it's just and who can, again, you know, you're in a context where it's like, yeah, probably, but still. And they asked, I loved that conversation where Ben's like, you heard stuff going on up here. You didn't think to come up and check it out, you know? And he's like, they could have been up here, you know, for all we know. We actually couldn't hear much down there. And he's like, oh, you couldn't hear anything. I was making quite the ruckus. He was like, yeah, it sounded like all this. It sounded like there was the world could have been ending up here. We heard some, and he's like, what do you mean by that? You know, like, so.
Yeah, get your story straight, man.
There's an element where it's like this. I think him talking to a black guy at all is making him nervous. You know, it's not like
yeah, and I think it's Ben is. I think the clear answer, or at least I don't know. And now just having the time to sit and think is you stay in that room until absolutely the last resort, and then you all go to the cellar when you need to. I feel like
that's the retreat.
Just, you combine both plans. Like, you don't just stay in the cellar and wait or whatever. You until you need to. I don't know. So they're both kind of right, but it is this, like, even his wife, Helen, like, says, like, you always have to be right, you know, like, it doesn't matter. It's like, you know, coming back to that line of, like, well, you know, us dying together won't solve anything, you know, or whatever. And it's, you can be right at the end of the day, but if it gets you killed, what the fuck's the point? And maybe that's the class or kind of social conversation that's going on, is that whenever, like, zombies are introduced and it's this chaotic world and chaos and really there's no rules anymore, obviously skin color just doesn't matter. Like, it's only a construct that we have within our world that makes it matter. So it's like, whenever you're thrown into this world of everyone's just trying to survive, even bringing up, like, racism is like, really? Like, in this time, you're even still making the effort to be, you know, make your life even harder by still being racist. So maybe, you know, that's what it's going for, but
I think that's a solid idea, and I think there's also something to be said for the idea that Harry becomes deeply insecure by the moral superiority Ben clearly possesses. He's, like, obviously a better person, and it's like he can tell he's a better person. It's not like it's not like it's something where he's like, oh, this guy thinks he's a better person than I am. No, Harry can look at Ben and know for a fact he's a better person based on the actions taken. And I think that
Harry got his ass beat by Ben because he took it because he's like, yeah, no, I deserve this one. This one was on me. Yeah. Like, not opening the door, not acting, and just staying there afraid, you know, or whatever. I think, and that, like, at least that visual cue, that was very, they made that a point to show that Ben will be the one to act, and then Mr. Cooper, or Harry would be the one just to freeze up and not do anything. And yeah, I mean, it's a very, like, obviously the moral compass that we all agree with is Ben. You know, it's like, he is the only character that you truly care about. You know, all the other innocent kind of people are just, like, I don't know. Barbara, she's just kind of sitting there at the end of the day. It's like, I still care for her. I don't want her to die, but it's like, there's not much I can really attach myself to her. The main thoughts that I have is just like, well, in this world, if this were to come to it, this would probably be a person. Someone who doesn't know what the fuck to do, who lost their brother, and just, like, they're frozen. Yeah, like, their world, everything's over. Might as well just, I don't know. That time to clock out. But I guess not much Barbara could really do. But I don't know. I wanted to give some nods to other people for character, but it was pretty hard to give anyone other than Ben the character.
Yeah, he's clearly the focal and center point of this movie, you know. And I appreciate that they do play with ideas of morality in an interesting way. Obviously, he does smack the shit out of Barbara at some point in this movie.
That's true. Yeah, that is true. And she's giving him nothing. I mean, there's no reason to hit her.
Well, she hits him, and he's like, okay, well, snap the fuck out of it. Like, let's.
Yeah, it was kind of like a wake up, like, kind of, and he didn't. I don't know. It seemed that he didn't want to do it, but he was like, all right, well, I don't know, something's got to try something. But
yeah, so, like, when he does that, obviously you're a little bit like, well, you know, we probably could have made a little bit better of a decision there. But he knocks her ass out, puts her on the couch, and she just lays down after that for a while. And she kind of stays on that couch for the bulk of the movie after that.
Yeah. Yeah, she does. Yeah, I don't know. It is, I guess it's early enough in the movie to where maybe you're still questioning whether this is the guy you're supposed to root for. I mean, they just kind of meet randomly. He shows up in the house, and you just, I mean, Barbara just has to trust him.
There you have it. We're off.
But, you know, she can't really react or do much. But I guess, I don't know. He does seem to care for her as well. It's never like, you get the notion of like, oh, this dude just hates women. You know, like, you never get that feel from him.
He's got empathy at the very least. Like, even when he does resort to hitting her, not that it's ever excusable, but there felt like there was no choice, really. Felt like it was like, okay, lock the fuck in, all right?
Yeah, we're currently dealing with a unknown zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, definitely the only point in the movie where we're like, you know, maybe could have been handled better. But even so, besides that, Ben, I think there's a lot of nuance to his character as well. It's clearly he becomes the good guy. You know, we don't know these characters prior, and we obviously won't get a chance to know them after. But regardless of who they were before they walked into this house, there's now one goal, and it's the living versus the dead. So they are automatically, you're with us or you're with them, and I feel like Ben is obviously the one spearheading the mission to keep the us as high as possible. You know what I'm saying? Get that number up as much as we can and keep it there. You know, we don't want to lose anybody senselessly.
Yeah. It seems to have the most level head, or just I'd want to, if I was in the situation, I would like to have a Ben around. Just dude was, I don't know, very resourceful, got the nails out right away, was just boarding up. I love how like at some shots it would just cut to him just like one bang and bang, just like two hits with the hammer, and like it's, you know, they just nailed it in before, and then he just gave it a good 2 whacks for the shot.
Hard.
I love,
hard,
you
as
know,
fuck.
I just
it's
but canonically it's to be believed that he got those 2 nails in with 1 hit.
Swift.
He was, you know, or so actually that's what I'll actually go with. But no, he I don't know. It was up until the very end, you know, I knew his fate sadly was coming. When it came to the end, it was too happy. You know, it was like the morning after, you heard like the birds chirping, and the, you know, I guess at first I was like, oh, you know, maybe it is all over. Maybe like search party, they're here. Like he's gonna go out obviously and be like, hey, oh my God, thank God. You know, I had that thought. And then whenever, I don't know, the back of my brain started to think, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I'm like, there hasn't really been like a thing on the race quite yet. You know, like there hasn't been a obvious choice to make the main character black. And then I'm like, oh, I was like, oh no, like this is very clear on what's going to happen. And I guess I went to the worst extreme of the people knowing that he was alive and not a zombie,
anyway,
but choosing to kill him. That's what I thought was going to go down. And I guess it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Like he's still dead at the end of the day.
Right.
It just would have made it worse.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and I think that there's something there where the guy goes, there's something moving in there. He's like, go ahead, hit it between the eyes, you know? Like, do
you think they know?
That's like, the unclear thing. I mean, because if you could see how far out are we, you know, if you can see that there's something moving in there, can you see that it's a dude holding a weapon, which the undead do not do, you know?
Yeah. I guess if they knew he was holding a gun, maybe, I mean, that's what I would assume that they would say. Is like, hey, that one's holding a gun, not like one's moving over it. So maybe it is.
I think it's just a
at
distance.
Such a far distance.
Like,
thing
but even so, like that's indiscriminate. You know, like they're going. If you are in this area, you are dying, and that's the same functionality as the zombies. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's more, you know, to the point of what they are trying to draw the comparison of between the hunters and the zombies. Is that like, it's just when our backs are against the wall like this, nobody's safe, you know, kind of, even living or undead, you know what I'm saying? Like one way or another. But yeah, it's just the pure fact that it's spearheaded by a sheriff or a deputy or whatever, and, you know, it's a bunch of white people wielding guns, and they shoot a black guy who...
Not a good look.
Yeah, no, and I think that's you know, it's obviously intentional. I don't think that was by any means just a coincidence. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Honestly, like, not without it, the whole movie doesn't mean anything. But like, it really does.
No, it anchors the movie.
The end of the movie. Yeah, it is a huge part of it, and I was very not glad to see it. But I did need
the movie
kind of
needed
something
that.
At the
yeah,
end.
like the movie needed an ending like this, because, you know, if it was just, you know, the other people went down and he survives the night, like, hey, cool, you know, like, good, you know, like that's that happy, cool, sure. But this gives it that edge, this the bleakness that it requires. You know, like it becomes intensely sad versus just being like, well, at least there's that. You know, like one of the movies that I really, really love in the horror vein, and like I enjoy horror movies if they end bleak. You know, if you're gonna make a horror movie, fucking commit. You know, don't give me a happy ending. Fuck that. You know, like I want evil to win. I want the horror to reign. You know what I'm saying? And like a really good example of that is Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Not the original, but the remake. The original gives them a little bit of a happy ending. It's like, oh, we figured out a way, but the remake from the 70s is much better. Both are good. You know, I don't want to oversell one or the other, but that's an incredible movie. Either one, you will well worth your time watching.
President Snow.
Yeah. R.I.P. Donald Sutherland.
Really? Recent? 2024?
Yeah, recent as of recording, just a couple weeks ago.
Oh my goodness.
Yes,
wow,
yes,
I didn't
indeed.
know that. Dang.
But yeah, as of release, about 6 months ago, or 3 or 4 or 5 months ago. And that's a really good example of a bleak ending to a horror movie. That's like, oh fuck, that just makes the movie better, you know. Like, and that's kind of, you know, when a horror movie has a happy ending, there's almost this sort of like, not cheapness, you know, it can be earned, a good happy, like there are horror, but the thing is that most horror movies with happy endings that I can think of weren't pure horror movies. There was like a note of comedy, like a horror comedy, like or action horror, like Ready or Not, or movies like that. Like those are movies that I do want a happy ending for, you know, when they aren't just pure death is coming, let's defeat it, you know, like Get Out. That's a good happy ending. That's a happy ending you want to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like when the villain isn't a undead vampire, mummy, werewolf. Like those movies, I want whatever that thing is to win. When the villain is human and it is devastate, I don't want that to win. You know, like I want that. I don't like the bleak ending in that scenario. If it's an alien, yeah, bleak. I want that. When if it's human, beat them. You know, like that. And I think that that's an interesting dichotomy for horror movies to possess that I've never really considered I like, and I've never really realized. That's why I kind of worked through it there, because I've never really thought about that. Like, I do like when it's bleak, but only in certain scenarios. Like, it really would have fucking sucked in Get Out if the other entity, or if the coagula wins. You know, like that sucks. That's ass. You need a happy ending. You know,
maybe it's like a survival guide. Maybe it's because it's like here's what not to do, or maybe not, just like what to look out for, or like maybe that it's like there's always that angle of like, if this were to break out, would this be how we would go about it?
Well, and there's like there's also a numbers factor to it, you know, like in kaiju movies, whenever a giant monster is attacking them, I want the humans to win. That's an underdog story I can get behind. Whenever they're overwhelmed by sheer numbers, like they are here with the zombies, or if it's an alien invasion, I don't have, I wish I could have faith that we would succeed in that scenario, but sometimes you need a movie to go, you couldn't. There's no way out of this. You know what I'm saying? And I think that this movie does a good job at that, because, I mean, like I said, there are sequels. This it seems like a win. You know, it seems like a win.
Oh, really? What is the next movie starts, and then there's like,
the next movie is called Dawn of the Dead.
So it's just
after
so this
Night of the Living Dead. This is the night before, I'm assuming, and I don't know that. I've never watched it, but
I think you got a good read. That's like
where my money's at.
Yeah, but, Land of the Dead, Diary of the Dead as well. Wow, yeah, we gotta. He's milked it. That's for sure. Good shit. I would too. Get your bag. But wow, 2005, is that still him? Wow, okay, so he was going pretty late in the game. Okay, 2017 is when he went. Okay, wow, George Romero. One of the great horror directors, man. Because like even if this is, you know, it's similar to Psycho in that it's foundational. You know,
Like, it's pretty predictable at most turns because it sets the tone for what movies kind of become in this genre. And in and of itself, this kind of creates its own genre. Like, the zombie survival flick wasn't really what zombie movies prior to this were. It was like there was just a zombie in a fucking movie. You know, it wasn't like zombies are waking up and they're eating fucking people. You know, like it's and it becomes a genre after this. I mean, like there was a TV show with fucking 15 seasons that ran on AMC. I mean, The Walking Dead. You know what I'm saying? Like that's
people love that shit. Yeah, people. What is it with us in an apocalypse story? Like why do we like it so much? Why do we?
I love apocalypse stuff. It's always really interesting. I think there's something to the idea of the indomitability of the human spirit, like the idea that we will fight back against overwhelming odds. Like no matter what, we will do our best to live, even in.
I like that.
Even in scenarios which we are doomed, you know? And I think that's the best spirit of an invasion flick or an apocalypse flick, is that we're going to figure out a way to get through this. And, you know, obviously we almost get that in this movie. And you don't always make it through it.
Dang.
But,
and then you got to imagine, like, at every house across the nation, you know, this was just one house, one group of people that this happened to, and it's probably
happening all over the place,
everywhere. And it's like, and then it's like, oh man, you know, it's nice. Like in the movie, you're just with the group, and you get to worry about their worries for now. But then the ending, you're like, oh wait a minute, oh damn, like now you're like, thinking of the bigger picture, and it's like, oh man, yeah, this doesn't. It's not as fun.
Well, and I think that this does a fantastic job of, even while we are trapped in this house, giving you that bigger world, showing you what's going on out there, showing you what's like
the broadcast.
It's a national emergency. You know, they're like, all right, keep the TV and radio on because we're going to try our best to help you in this time.
Staying inside was the thing to do. Now we know it is the exact opposite. Head to the nearest help station near you or whatever. And
and it's like, how helpful are those going to be? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just
they didn't get 50 feet past the house, you know, before they fucking blew up a car. So I don't know.
That was a shit show.
Yeah, nothing went well. I mean, everything just went completely wrong. I get, like, Ben knew the car was going to blow too. I think he was like, hey, what do you get out of the car? What are you doing? And, you know, he was just trying to put out the fire in the grass, you know, or whatever, which is.
Yeah. Well, and he also like inadvertently causes the fire, you know, like, he's got the torch in his hand and it's like, oh dude, buddy, come on. And then he's like, it's just a shit show right there. And, you know, like but I love that that's kind of what it would be, you know, you can't control that. You know, like you are panicking. You are just trying to put gas in a fucking tank and you're carrying a torch. Odds are you forget that you're carrying a fucking torch in that scenario. You know what I'm saying? There's a reason they tell you not to bring a flame to the gas station. You know, don't flick a lighter. Don't smoke a cigarette. You know,
at one point I was like, well, if we're this far gone, let's turn it into a flamethrower now. You know, let's rip it up and burn all the zombies up.
See, that would have been a really good idea.
Didn't
probably, you know,
practical.
Practical. That's not safe.
Literally dangerous. Yeah, I think like I don't know, maybe just not to go there. But yeah, did seemingly blow up a truck, or maybe I don't know. That looked pretty.
No,
pretty
yeah,
practical.
I think they definitely did. Yeah, but no, and like I said, it's very simple. It's a really easy movie to watch. It's a really easy to get through. I mean, like it's for as much of a slow burn as it is. It's not a slow viewing. It really does kind of fly past you. And I think it's because it does a really good job of setting you in real time, kind of. Like you are experiencing it with the characters. And I think that that's a strength, you know?
But we're there along with them through the night. And that's it. Yeah, we're only next morning. It is like 5 minutes of the movie, if that we do get to spend on the next day. So yeah, it is just one night. But yeah. I did enjoy. I don't know. I will say Psycho probably a little leans out or edges it out a little bit.
Yeah, I do enjoy Psycho more. Yeah, but there's a classicness to this and a simplicity to this that feels feels good, you know, like this is one that I can regularly, and it's like, this is a Halloween season movie, you know. Psycho, it's got a little bit more of a year-round appeal for me, I think. I think you can just kind of throw on Psycho whenever. This is every
nice.
October, baby. I am watching this shit.
That's
you know,
true.
like that is kind of, it's got, you know, like a probably a good family movie night movie, or like a, you know, background whenever there's a Halloween party going on, a Halloween gathering of some sort. Like, it's just, it sets the tone. It really sets the vibe, and I really appreciate that. I love Night of the Living Dead. So with that, I'll go ahead and do the plugs, and then we'll rate this movie. And that'll be that. So, if you will, we only have one place for you to follow right now, and that's Twitter at Cinementalists. I would have said go watch this on YouTube, but there's a really good chance there's not going to be a YouTube video for this one because my camera didn't work at all. Really, really fucked me over on that. However, we will have video for most stuff. Kind of funny, we're only 1 for 5 right now. Psycho had video. But our first 3 live commentaries, we figured video's kind of senseless with a live commentary, and now I'm having technical difficulties. So, grand. But hopefully I get it back soon. But yeah, so typically you can find us on YouTube. You can find us, look up The Cinementalists, spelt how it is in the title of this podcast. You can follow on Twitter at Cinementalists, as it is spelt in the title of this podcast. We're an offshoot of the Penny Bloom podcast, currently doing Penny Bloom Dispatch, and we're not far off from season 2 of Cinema Surprise now. Only about a month out, and I'm very, very excited for that. But yeah, you can head to Patreon, patreon.com/PennyBloomPod. Where we have all sorts of stuff, book reviews, comic book reviews, movie reviews, and the like. For $1.50 a month, you get access to all of it and more. But yeah, and on Wednesdays we have our Star Wars podcast, Fulcrum, a Star Wars podcast. Check that out. Yeah, leave a 5-star rate and review wherever you might be listening, and download the episode. I'd appreciate that greatly. And come back next week where we'll be covering The Exorcist. A little bit more to go on conversationally on that one, I feel like, but. Yeah. Let's rate this thing on a scale of 1 to 10. How do you feel about Night of the Living Dead?
Well, it's got a good old 4 stars on the letterbox from me. Is where it landed. I think I would be somewhere in the 8 realm. I'm not quite in the 9s. I guess the ending really does anchor. I guess I would like a little bit more substance throughout. Maybe, but I do like how foundational it is and just laying out what a zombie movie is and all that stuff. So there is that enjoyment that comes from there, but only so much can be gained from that. So I feel like I kind of top out at like a 8 kind of felt right, but a 8.25. I think I like the little bump for the foundation and I don't know the inspiration. So
cool.
That's where I'm...
Yeah, no, this is I enjoy this movie a great deal. I'm gonna do the same beat as Psycho last week. I'm probably gonna take you about a half point higher there. I think I would go 8.75. I really love this movie, man. I think that I have so much fun watching it. It's one of those ones where I realize how much I liked watching it when I get to the end. You know, like the movie ends and I'm like, oh man, I had a good time. And I think that's. Yeah, I do think the ending does a lot of heavy lifting there, you know, but there's a certain urgency it has at the end that just kind of gets you to lock in, and you are there, you are in it, and it's good, man. I whenever Johnny reaches back through the door and Barbara's like, Johnny, no, Johnny, no, and she just kind of gets pulled out. Yeah, like that's
the one thought, I thought like they were going to get the car keys, and somehow go in their car and leave. And I'm like, oh, Johnny's back, he has the keys. And then, no, just death. Yeah. Very, I don't know, maybe upon rewatch, now that I know the ending, that does change.
There's an interesting recontextualization of the movie, you know. It's one of those movies where, like, you just don't expect that. At the end, you know, like you think you're getting into a fun, you know, a zombie horror flick, and then they hit you with the black guy getting shot by the police at the end of the movie, and you're like,
Dang it. What?
Wow.
I wanted zombies. I wanted to escape the world, and now you throw me back into it. God damn it, you smart ass George Romero. You know, it's
and that's the beauty of art, you know, blending the real with the fantastical, and this does a fantastic job at that. So yeah, I would go 8.75, and that would balance us out perfectly at an 8.5. Makes it nice and easy.
There we go.
But yeah, I love this movie, man, and I can't wait for The Exorcist next week, as that is potentially my favorite horror movie ever.
I've heard very good things. Yeah,
as far as pure horror, not thriller, not suspense. This is a horror movie, and I'm excited for it.
Actually, freaky too. Like I don't know, not much.
There's a skeevishness about The Exorcist that's and well, I'll save it. I'll save it for next week. Because it's good. It's a lot of good talking points there. But yeah, so. With that, we will conclude this episode on The Night of the Living Dead. Did you have a favorite quote from this one?
Yeah. It was from Ben. I had a couple from him. But the one I think is when he's telling off Mr. Cooper, good old Harry, or whatever his name was. But he says, if you're stupid enough to go die in that trap, that's your business. However, I'm not stupid enough to follow you. Stuff for the kid or old man is so stupid. Now get the hell down in the cellar. You can be the boss down there. I'm the boss up here. I was just like, all right. Like, yeah, I don't know. It was just the delivery, mostly.
Yeah. Dwayne Jones did a fucking fantastic job as Ben, dude. Yeah, but all right. Then with that, I was Colton Robertson. I was joined by Joseph George. Thank you very much, homie.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it's always a pleasure to have you. And remember, you can be the boss down there, and I'll be the boss up here.